Our special meeting is called to order. The time is 6 p.m. Before we begin, council, please put away cell phones. If you have personal business during the meeting, please move for a recess. As a reminder to all attendees, this meeting is being streamed live. The camera is located directly in the back of the council chambers above the clock. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cottle?
Here.
Councilmember Graham?
Here.
Councilmember Johnson?
Here.
Councilmember Crafton?
Here.
Councilmember Vlock is absent and excused unless objection is raised. Councilmember Rubio?
Here.
You do have a quorum, Madam Mayor. All council members are present with us in chambers. Councilmember Vlock is absent and excused.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Johnson, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item of business is approval of the agenda. Are there changes to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as presented. We are on to persons to be heard. It's a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. There is no one on the sign-up sheet, so we will close persons to be heard. We are now there is no unfinished business, so we are now at new business. Madam Clerk, please read the item by title.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Accomplishments planning for the future of our city. This will be in committee of the whole. Departmental presentations will continue tomorrow evening, December 4th, 2024.
Thank you. Is there a motion to enter the committee of the whole?
Madam Mayor, I move to enter committee of the whole.
Is there a second?
Rubio seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Cottle and seconded by Councilmember Rubio to enter the committee of the whole. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, we are now in committee of the whole. The time is 6:02 p.m. Okay. And I guess I get to go first. Okay, on the screen, you will see the city's mission and vision. That has not changed. And our values: collaboration, teamwork and partnership, consistency, the reliability, ingenuity, forward thinking, accountability, responsible, service, serving our community. Sustainability is for our future. Go ahead. Okay, the goals are on your screen also. Would you like me to read them, or I think you can read for yourself the goals? So we'll go on to the accomplishments. We have secured $5.7 million in federal funds for wastewater treatment infrastructure improvements, $4 million for the interconnect project. We was awarded $1.5 million from the state of Alaska on the upgrade water and wastewater.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if you know, can you state what the co-pays are on these, or what our buy-in is on these? You know, the 5.7 million in federal funds costs us 6%, 10%, none?
None.
Yeah, so when you go through these, if we could know that.
Oh, okay. But on my accomplishments, the co-pays has been $0.
Thank you.
We got $70,000 for a SEDS grant. and the SEDS has been approved and completed. We was awarded $762,495 from the Federal Aviation Administration for our planning and airport development at the Wasilla Municipal Airport. Our master plan is 90% complete. We continue expanding the runway to 5,100 feet and to get land acquisition to complete that project. The award of $5 million from the state of Alaska for airport expansion, and the ribbon cutting on Apron E, which it was paved, the tie downs and everything. If you've not been, go see. And then our continued project for the Alaska Railroad Wasilla stop. The parking lot is complete. Of course, the landscaping is not, but the first stop was January 2024 during a blizzard. So, Title 16 revision, we are 80% complete. And we have reorganized and continue, it's not done yet, but we're getting there, the reorganized of the planning department. And having said that, I would like to introduce you to our new city planner. Cindy, would you stand, please? So we are doing homegrown. And that is a 30,000-foot overview of the accomplishments that we have done this year. And as you, as the departments go through, you will see how everything that we have done, we can connect to a goal. We have, where's my sheet? I've lost my sheet. Here we go. Anyway, we have on these sheets, you can see, and each department will absolutely tie to a goal that the council has set forth. And that is the end of mine. Questions?
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Graham?
Thank you. So, I have with me my budget binder, 23-24. And there are, Wasilla Bowl budget goals and initiatives up in the very front under the tab, council goals. And they don't seem to line up with what we have here. What, are these goals that you've listed here, goals 1 through 5? Are they somehow different than what we have in the budget binder?
No, they're not. They may have a different number.
Okay.
I don't either. So.
It's not important, I'm just curious where they came from.
Okay, next up is IT. Steve.
All right, good evening, everybody. Make sure this works. Cool. We're gonna look at the IT department here. Vision not very fun. Same. The first goal we had prior was a new ERP. And I kind of spearheaded that because there wasn't really anybody at the time to really take it on. So I kind of got the ball rolling on it, and we did. I believe you guys voted on it last meeting to move forward with that. And I kind of handed that all off to finance because that's really in the finance field. I just tried to get the ball moving. So this goal is kind of over and moved into the finance department. The department assessments is still going to be retained. It's basically, hey, we're looking for software that does X, and I can kind of help people look at it. Hey, we already have something that does that. We can use that instead, and just kind of work with the departments on choosing software platforms. Goal 2 is just, in a nutshell, make everything better and modern and where it should be. Just centralization, consolidation, buying gear that is made for an enterprise, not cheap gear. You know, we want to do things right. It may cost a little more, but you're gonna gain in the long run. Goal 3 is just, get help when we need it, really. Instead of running wiring down the wall exposed, we're hiring contractors now that run it behind the wall, do professional jack, label it right, label it on the other end, just kind of a professionalism thing. And again, it's something that costs a little bit of money, but it's well worth it to have a professional looking environment. So that's really what this goal is outsource when we need to and do things in-house when we can. The accomplishments. Oh, I have not been keeping up with that. So modernize and refresh telecom locations. So at some sites like the road shop, maintenance shop, there's like a wooden cabinet on the wall. And you open it up and there's wires everywhere and gear just stuffed in there. So what we've done is gone around and ripped those off the wall, put on professional looking IT racks, mounted all new equipment in them, ran the cables all pretty. It's just the right thing to do. We did a lot of migration of legacy connections from MTA to a different type of connection, which has saved us probably thousands of dollars a month at this point. That project is basically 99% complete. We've acquired some funding to help with policy and procedure creation through a federal grant. That was one of the council bills, was to secure funding for technology initiatives. So we've gotten this federal grant twice so far now for a total of about $60,000. And it's around cybersecurity. It's a cybersecurity grant. So this will be for writing incident response plans, disaster recovery plans, things like that. We procured a managed detection and response and network detection and response security solution. That's kind of a 24/7 monitoring solution. So if something massive occurs, we will be notified. We migrated to a hybrid cloud phone system, Microsoft Teams. It's actually cheaper than our legacy phone system due to the legacy PRI costs. And long distance charges no longer apply. Website redesign was a council goal as well. Maybe it was number 6, maybe it's different on the sheet, I don't know. We did go out for RFP for a new website redesign. Someone has been selected and I believe they're into legislation land. So that is it.
Okay, any questions? Mr. Graham?
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, Steve. That was very informative. Recently we've been, the manning for your department has been subject of discussion at the council. So it's our impression, or we've been told, that you've been unable to fill the positions which are allocated in your department. Can you kind of expand?
We have.
Are we getting applicants? Are we not getting applicants? Are we
We
just out of the
were-
ballpark when it comes to money? What are
We weren't posting that position. We had tried for a while. We finally hired somebody probably a year and a half ago. And because of all the advancements, modernization and automation, I really didn't need 3 positions at City Hall. So when I came on board, my position was new and there was 2 technicians working underneath me. They both quit. It was me for a while, had somebody, they quit. Finally got someone that's actually stuck around for over a year now. But with just all the enhancements we've made in consolidation, there was really not a need to hire for that position at this time.
So in your upcoming budget, are you looking for a department of 2 or again looking for a department of 3?
There's some other things going on. I think we will be good with 2. I don't know. There's some other things kind of happening. We have a contract employee that does IT. So if that contract is not renewed for any reason and stuff, that is where an additional staff member could fill in. So it's kind of it's hard having, that should have been a city employee the whole time, but it's been a contractor for 20 years. So if they ever decide to retire or something, yes, we probably will be understaffed at that point.
Thank you.
Yep.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
through Steve. So we have selected an ERP, enterprise management type system, correct?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it does everything. It does time.
it's timekeeping, it's gonna be finance, payroll, kind of probably some asset management, things like that. It's a direct replacement to our current kind of financial suite.
Correct. So the last city council meeting, I think we had a discussion on that. And one of my comments that I had at that point is when we start to integrate such a massive system within our own IT, that's going to place a huge burden on your department primarily. Is that correct?
Not entirely. So our current system is what you would call on-prem or on-premise. It's servers in the server room. This is a SaaS solution, which is software as a service. So it's 100% cloud hosted. So we don't have to worry about any of the on-premise infrastructure. The main focus IT is going to have in the ERP is basically security and access roles and stuff. So when somebody gets hired, we add them to a group, they get this in that system. But for the actual deploying the software and things like that, that's what's kind of great about SaaS is it's basically vendor managed. As long as we have an internet connection, we can access it.
Okay. My experience has been when we've done migration in other
The migration
companies,
piece might not be fun, but
it tends to be more than just, we'll just let the contractor do it, and then that's just my concern, and I'm expressing it to you
Yes.
based on my experience on similar such projects, so
I am going
consider
to
that.
be involved in like the data migration process or any assistant they need getting the data off our current systems, because they're not necessarily going to be touching those. So I'm going to have to pull the data from those and hand them over into the correct format to them, is my understanding. The talk should be starting soon, and see how it goes.
You used the word should. Just consider.
I use that word all the time in IT because you can never be 100%.
Thank you.
Yep.
Seeing nobody else? Thank you, Steve.
Cool, thank you.
And now we are at the Menard Center. Scott? You got 30 whole minutes.
Oh, sorry. Good evening, City Council.
Turn the mic on.
Good evening, City Council. Scott Bell, Recreational Services Director. I'm here to present on the Menard Sports Center. First, foremost, thank you for taking your time and the support that we've received for the Menard Sports Center. And to Madam Mayor, thank you for the trust and the opportunity to serve the city. So take that as an honor. Okay, so to me, the Arctic Winter Games was kind of a crowning achievement and kind of the culmination of what staff can accomplish with teamwork, departmental support, community partnerships, and amazing facility. It was a heck of a week. We had 17,000 people through the facility, 8 territories around the world, 3,400 people for opening ceremonies, 3,000 for closing. We averaged about 2,500 people a day through the hockey and the Dene games. And it was, I think we put in about 300 man hours from staff's point, and then another 200 in turning the facility through one of our booster clubs that helped us out. So there was quite an investment, a lot of support from all the departments, all the phone calls, texts, everything that I needed. The support was great. And so it's a big, big part of snapshot of what we're capable of, the impact this facility has, again, as I've said, on the city, the state, lower 48, and now the world. So we take a lot of pride in that facility and what we're capable of doing. So that, again, is a big kudos to a lot of people across the board. So I do want to say thanks to all my fellow department managers and directors, as our Menard accomplishments are also part of their accomplishments. Their ongoing daily support, answering our phone calls, emails, text requests, especially quality drop-in times with me is very appreciated by everybody. And so this is kind of, again, a summary of the things that we've done. And this first page here is all the things that, the records that we've broken, not just our highlights. So the big one and the most exciting is, one of my personal goals was to generate $1 million in revenue, which we've done for the very first time in the history of the facility. We generated 5.7% over the year before. Our revenue over budget was almost $140,000 over what we projected, so we did pretty good there. Our facility rental fees was $890,000, which was actually almost the whole budget for the year just in that, not including naming rights, concessions, lease space, things like that. Door count, okay, we had a few people through our door. 370,000 plus visits inside the facility, not including exterior use. 32% increase over the year previous. So we're just got a whole lot of people coming, checking out what we've got. Learn to Skate program, 165 students, which is not necessarily the world, but our highest all-time prior to that was only 128 students. So we just see a trend and a lot of the things that we're doing that just kind of keep really, really growing. So it's been fantastic. Facebook, we're doing pretty well there. And one of the neat things was we did a concession solutions. It was a company that came in and they rented the concession space. So instead of having a business operate it, they came in, set it up, stocked it, brought all the inventory, and then he lets the nonprofit organizations come in and run it and give them a cut. His first year out, he gave $70,000 to all these different nonprofits, of which is great because it supports the hockey group that's using our facility, the wrestling group, and things like that. So it's a really great model. So we had great success with that.
And the contractor chooses the nonprofits, or is the city involved in that, or how's that work?
He leases the space, so he's in charge of all of that. The first year was putting it out, anybody interested. Then he saw those that did follow up, those that would sign up and drop out, or those that would always step up. So then what he did with the big events is created kind of a lottery. Other than like, so for example, we just had the Lancer Smith Wrestling Tournament, and that's actually hosted by Palmer Moose Boosters for that. So they got to run it for their event. Wasilla High School, when they host the D1 hockey tournament, they get a chance to run it. And then the other events, it goes basically to a lottery system. So, yeah.
So the city is not involved in that, that's,
Nope.
other than providing the space on the contractor.
Exactly, yeah. So keeps us out of it, allows him the opportunity to, work with those that want to, work with him.
Great.
Yep. So that's been a very exciting thing that we've brought in.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, Scott?
Yes, sir.
Go back to the previous slide, please. So we had a really good year. I mean, those are some really outstanding results. I do have one concern. I think these results, if you really look at like our door count, really came to be through the Arctic Games. I think that, is that your assessment? I mean, that seems to be the big event which drove a lot of our numbers to the stellar results that we have.
So the increase was 85,000 visits, and the Arctic Winter Games accounted for 17. So we still had 65,000 more people through the door if you remove the Arctic Winter Games impact.
So is what you're saying is that there may be the possibility of actually replicating it less the Arctic Games for next year?
I'm already 15,000 visits ahead of last year at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So kind of going through accomplishments, the first was kind of our big projects. The parking lot, dun, dun, dun. So that's been a several years. We've been kind of working at this in kind of pieces. So a big part of it is we expanded the footprint of what is out there. The new areas, we call it the north lot, and all the other light fixtures have all been upgraded because we had a lower yielding lumen. And so the parking lot now is really properly illuminated with commercial grade lighting. We've removed the dirt hill, which from the day I started some years ago and my little job, that has just been one of those things that just had to get rid of. The liability, the crazy stuff that was going on up there just wasn't worth it. So now we've also, through that process, by clearing it and grading the land, we'll gain from that probably another 75 plus spots. Right now with Title 16 draft, we're looking at the potential for that parking lot to have 485 parking spots added to our kind of portfolio. That's with removing the rodeo bleachers, getting rid of the sand, grading, cutting down trees, expanding that footprint. So that's been pretty amazing. We've also done a lot of asphalt repair. We've had a lot of areas that lifted trip hazards, because what they originally did is they poured most of the asphalt after the building was built. So a lot of those connector spots separated, lifting, not done properly. So we've done a lot of patch and replace. We've also, in different areas, expanded the parking area because of the flow of traffic, because we have two really, really bad choke points. One by what we call the RV island, and the second is the back entry where all the big trucks and all the hockey people come and go. It just keeps getting really, really tight, and it ends up in kind of a single lane back there. So we were able to expand all that. Pardon me. We've removed old connexes. We've asphalted areas. We put the one connex that's left behind our shed area. That's our FEMA connex, so that has got FEMA supplies in there. But we've been able to kind of completely clean up that whole area there. So it's really made a huge, huge difference on, I think, the appearance of the area. We've additionally, we got our electric Zamboni, so that's been fantastic. So those are kind of our big things that we had going on. And a series of all the other projects that we've done.
Scott?
Yes, sir.
On the parking lot expansion and the dirt hill out there, the archers used to use that hill all the time as a backdrop. Have they moved on to a different facility, or are we still trying to accommodate them? Or what?
They haven't been there in 8 years that I know, but there was at Lake Lucille, a bow range, I believe, that was done out there. Yeah.
Scott, if I could add to that, the archery is at Lake Lucille at the campground back in there.
Somewhere, yeah.
They have, I think it's finally complete.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
just to clarify, Scott, you said that because of the way we're changing Title 16, you're able to add additional parking spots. Did you say we're adding 400, or we will have a total of 400?
The whole project will lend to about 485 spots. Title 16 where we fell into how it was written required 15% landscaping and islands. Now, the way it's going, it's at 5%. So that creates a lot of freedom for us to design the parking lot for maximum parking. We're actually designing it so that actually the aisles are a little bit wider, so that because we have, again, we have trucks, we have buses, we have everything that uses that. And so, yeah, in the end, that's the idea, 485. But the reduction in Title 16 gives us a lot of freedom to design it the way we need it.
And what's the increase? So how many are we gaining by redoing Title 16? Roughly.
We were at, prior to the hill moved or removed, and with the old Title 16, our best case scenario at that point was about 400 spots. So we're now at about 485 with the hill gone, a little bit of expansion of the footprint and the reduction in that, yeah. And more importantly for us, the ability to maintain it, because all those islands, I just, anytime I go over to Target, I just start twitching when I look at all those islands and trying to have to plow that and the traffic and the things that we have going on. Because our parking lot is used for just about everything in this town, from events to you name it, so it gives us a lot more flexibility.
That's awesome to hear. Thank you.
So here's kind of just a snapshot of a lot of the things that we've done with the budget and the CIP that we've had. And the first project actually was grant money. So for Arctic Winter Games, we had an emergency responder radio coverage bidirectional antenna installed, which helps the UHF and the VHF signals, so that they did an analysis in the building, and it had, I think, 60 to 65% failure in the ability for radios, the emergency services to be connected to the system. So this was a huge component to really making our facility a lot safer. And again, that was through, I think, a 911 grant. Converted our first aid room into a family bathroom. Ice compressor, so the ice rink compressor system, so we went through, as you guys know, unfortunately some leaks, but we have converted over to the R22 refrigerant to a 448A, and because of the efficiency of this refrigerant, the system fully charged, we've actually experienced about a 10-11% reduction in electricity, because the compressors are our number one use of electricity there, so that was a surprise win for us. We installed a water circulation system that cost about $8,000. And in the first 4 months of its use, we've saved $4,200, because the way the system has been running for 21 years, there's a hose that goes into the compressor, it cools it, and it goes straight down a drain. So for 21 years, we've had basically the faucet on 9 months of the year, water straight through. And we also have the sewer charges. So right now we're projecting 430-some thousand gallons of water reduction. So that one's paid off huge. We're completing the oil return system, which is all part of the way the refrigeration works. We've automated our ice plant through cloud access, alarms, and automation, so we now get the triggers if there's a problem, so we can respond a lot quicker. Our drinking fountain bottle fillers, we replaced 2 with ADA compliant and refrigerated drinking fountains. So we've improved that quite a bit, and we have a couple more that we're going to work on. Through the trade that we did with the school district, we were able to upgrade the projectors and the screens in the arena. So if you were at, Lancer Smith Wrestling, Arctic Winter Games graduations, you should be able to really see the difference. Expanded our cameras. We've done some great things in the lobby with our furniture. We've done several concrete repairs where we had pretty deteriorated trip hazard type areas, so we've taken care of that in phase 1. So that is kind of a snapshot of everything that we've accomplished so far. These are some of the upcoming projects that we have that are all already under the existing operating budget or CIP. So these are some of the projects that we'll be working on through the rest of this year. So you can kind of see all of that right there. So big picture, so you understand what I'm trying to accomplish is, we keep talking about building for tomorrow, and a big part of how I'm trying to operate and our asks that will be coming to you is everything that we're doing is kind of based on a restore, refresh, or reimagine kind of vision. We have things that are wearing out. We have things that were underutilized, so we changed their usage. We're looking at equipment. We're looking at everything. So a big part of what we're looking to do is how do we meet the needs going forward? How do we make sure our facility maintains the standard of quality that we all want? And so that's a big part of what we're looking at. And the list is kind of a snapshot of, again, what we're looking to do. We're strategizing what the priorities are from our vision, mayor's vision, and your guys' vision too. So with that, the parking lot can be finished, needs to be regraded, asphalted, and complete that project. Then we're looking at replacing rubber flooring throughout the facility. Again, most of these is because this has got 21 years of use. And so some of these are kind of on their shelf life, and others is projecting so that we'll be ready for when they do kind of come to their end of life. So that's kind of a snapshot of a few of the things and that we're looking to do there.
Scott?
Yes, sir.
So, down towards the bottom, the second to last bullet there, remove the schoolhouse structure and the cabin from the property.
Yes.
Those were moved there as a city council initiative. Are you gonna let the city council know what's going on before you undo their initiative?
Oh, absolutely. So, and the pieces that I've got, because I wasn't involved in the process, is those were brought there with the idea of a mini Pioneer Park or Peak, whatever is up in Fairbanks, and bring all these different historical items. None of those plans ever came to fruition. There was visions of the cruise ship, buses stopping there and having things to do. So it really hasn't gone anywhere. So from my point of view, it's either there does need to be a directive from the council if you've got a vision that we can enact. Otherwise, the recommendation will be to remove, because really the schoolhouse is boarded up. It's not necessarily occupiable. The trench cabin's okay. And they're just really not being utilized. So if there's a way to do that differently, we're up for it. But yeah, absolutely.
So, I would think it would be, upon you to come to us with some sort of plan, either for the removal, relocation, whatever, and the abandonment of that project, but let us know rather than just put a bullet up here on your.
Well, my vision is to remove them, so that's why I posted it that way, but
Well,
doesn't
but there's
mean.
more to removal. I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna burn them down, you're gonna move them someplace else? Who wants these? I mean, we need information.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, these are, again, ways to reimagine the facility, and we can come with lots of options. So quickly, operating goals, continue to increase our revenues 3 to 5% annually, finding ways to generate revenue that doesn't take away from regular sport. So we keep, if we do an event, we're taking away from soccer or hockey. So the goal is to kind of find ways not to be taking one from the other. Keep working through eliminating work time efficiencies through equipment installations, upgrades, processes, and software platforms, again, ready for all the ERP, all the different things that the other departments are doing, and then we'll tag along with some of the ones that we need kind of to take ourselves to that next level. And then look at how we're trying to accommodate our future use and where we see ourselves going.
Scott, when you talk about expanding existing facilities there was, and I think they're still on the books of phase 2 expansion on the turf side. Is that what you're talking about there? Are you talking about developing a new plan or what?
Brainstorming anything and everything. Looking at, working with Madam Mayor on what the vision is. If it is, quote, expanding the turf, if it's changing the turf's usage, if it's building more facilities. We've had lots of discussions and a few other meetings outside of just internal to just see what are the possibilities with the facility. And so a big part of that is coming to council, if it's a feasibility studies, interest from the council of how you want to go. But my intent here is to say, this facility is crazy busy. And I think the future for the city is this facility is not going to be able to accommodate potential other uses. And we need to really look at how we take it to the next level. Or not, but my goal is to present opportunity and vision going forward. And you guys can kind of tell me, heck no, or sounds like a great idea. So I'll transition into recreational services. And look at that motley crew, and Madam Mayor. So this is our 4th of July, some of our staff and family.
Mr. Johnson.
So recreational services, my component of it is the event side of it mostly. And so a big part of my responsibilities are the 4th of July Mayor's Picnic. And again, we've had one of the biggest ever. I think we served over 3,000 meals, and it just is a fantastic family event. And one, kind of the goal has always been we want to own 4th of July in the Valley, and I think we've kind of accomplished that. We've had great fireworks shows 3 years in a row. We expanded the Music in the Park series, which I've heard from the council that they've experienced that. And we were having just amazing attendance from 1,000 to 1,500 people through those. And that's been great. We had our cleanup days with over 10,000, 10 tons of trash collected. And so that's kind of the big accomplishments of that, what we have going on. Next is how do we expand Music in the Park series? Again, this will be, right now, the idea is to add a few more shows, so it almost becomes a summer 2-month program. New Year's Eve fireworks show, so we're gonna kind of taking our first steps in this year. So I've gone to a new vendor that's gonna be able to, I think, provide a higher quality, a little more professional show. We've gotten some great donations. But what we're going to do is we're working with Make a Scene, who did our Music in the Park. And what we're going to be doing is kind of doing a fun live broadcast from Idita Park. And they'll be doing, when the show, will do a countdown, and then they'll do music to like fireworks songs like, Tom Petty, Free Fallin' and Katy Perry fireworks and that kind of stuff. And so it'll start at an hour, 7 o'clock. And then the idea is they're gonna be doing on-site music. They're gonna have giveaways, cocoa, cookies, snacks, things like that. So we're kind of stepping that up. So it's an event actually in the park, not just everybody sitting in their car. But if they're in their car, they're gonna be hearing things that are going on in the park itself. So we're kind of excited to kind of play with that a little bit. And then 4th of July picnic, kind of the idea right now is that space is a little cramped for what we've got going on. So we're going to see about expanding it, how we can connect the Music in the Park. We've historically done, last 2 years, the Music in the Park finale on 4th of July. So we're going to try to see how we can tie that with the picnic and just kind of bring that all together. So that's kind of the visions right there right now. And then,
So Scott,
yes, sir.
looking at the Music in the Park, I mean, that was originally started by, Make a Scene, essentially as a volunteer
Yes.
event. So are we now contracting with them to do that?
So what we've done is we've contracted with them so that what we do is we basically essentially pay for the sound system and the performers. Then they actually put together the talent, the lineup. Then they get all of the vendors, they get the beer garden set up, they do the food trucks, and they take care of all of that aspect. So I don't have to literally find food truck people and all those kind of resources. So yes.
Okay, and they're online, they're in line with your vision for the future here?
Absolutely. They would love to see this expanded. We're also trying to balance between not going too far, say with, you know, if it's Palmer's Friday Fling, but we've kind of found our Saturday niche, so we kind of got that going. And with what we did last year, the time frame, the talent, the attendance, now we're just looking to say, you know, this is still going so well. Let's keep providing more of these, and they would love to do that. Yeah. They've been a great partner, again, with the fireworks show, so we're excited to keep working with them. The last part is, so what we did this year was our park passports, so that's what we handed out. We printed about 1,000 of those, and we distributed those to second and third grade City of Wasilla elementary schools as kind of an opportunity to get out and see the parks and learn about what we have going on. Our vision this coming year is to expand it to the rest of the parks and integrate it and actually create more of a website for all this, and including more historical information and things like that. So I believe we're working on website stuff, so we're kind of trailing behind that, but this was kind of a neat little project that we've had a lot of positive response from. And then just keep working with Public Works through the Park and Rec Commission to keep working on our facilities and making sure they're continue to be a focal point for the valley. Any questions?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Scott, and I love the Parks Passport. You say that you distribute them, and so you distribute them to the schools or at the parks, or how do you distribute them?
So we did a homemade one the year before this, and they could pick them up at the library, the museum, here at City Hall, and that went pretty good. And so this year, we targeted specifically certain grades, and so we worked with the school district and had a contact there, and so they literally at each second and third grade class gave them out to all the students.
Okay, and then are you going to have them still available for kids that aren't in the schools, that, you know, kids that are here through the summer and stuff, that they can get them at the library, or?
So that's kind of where the next phase is, getting it on the website so they can either download it, those kind of things. It really was a summer program for us. So our first investment was getting this designed, which was a big part of it. So we had to go out to somebody to get this designed and then printed. And so now we kind of know what it all costs. We have our product, and we can kind of build off of that, make it downloadable and a component of a website. So it's kind of gone to sleep for the winter, and then we'll readdress it when we come back to spring.
Okay, and then what are your plans, and how do the kids get their book stamped?
So there's instructions in the back of the book, so what they can do is they can come to the Menard Center, and we actually have the stamps there. Talking too much. That's why I use pictures. That way I don't have to say so many words. But, so yeah, we have stamps at the Menard, we had stamps at the Menard Center. They could come in, get them stamped, they're doing things. We're looking at, the next phase right now is the idea is have stations in the park with the stamps and things like that, so they can kind of, grandma and grandpa, whoever can do it with them, or, you know, kind of make that their own little adventure.
Okay, and I ask a lot because my 3 grandsons that come in the summer, so thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Madam Mayor?
Oh, sorry, Ian, I didn't see that.
Ms. Rubio?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Scott, I have a question. Can we add the library into this passport? So you say, yes, you can go to the stamp, you know, at the Menard Center, but can you add the library to get a stamp?
That's the plan.
That's
yes.
the plan, you're gonna add the library?
This year was, again, this was the next level.
Okay.
It gave us our footing, and the idea is that actually it would be at the museum, the library,
Perfect.
all the city buildings, things like that. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I like that idea instead of having the stamp actually in the park.
yeah. A little bit of both
More
again, because
traffic everywhere.
some just like to have it and play with it, and they color in it, and then, or others, you know, as part of this concept, whoever's time I'm chewing up, I apologize, was if you've been to a national park and you get the books, that's kind of a version of what we're trying to
No, I
make
love
our.
it. I love it. I've taken my kids to many of them out of state, so,
Yeah.
yep.
Madam Mayor?
Ian?
Thank you. You said you distributed these to just the elementary schools in the city right now?
Yes.
Are you hoping to try and expand it to further elementary schools? Because then we can get more people outside the city into the city.
Our, well, through the future budget process. Our next step was really to concentrate on the ability so that they can get it themselves, because the printing cost is a lot.
Right.
So certainly we can get partners and do things like that, but expanding it, absolutely, we don't have a problem with that. The goal was design it, get 4 primary parks. Next year, add the other parks into it, and then expand its distribution, either via website or more printing. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
Great. And second question would be, did we have any type of, I see we have a QR code here on it. Do we have a QR code, or is the intent to put QR codes at the different parks so that, again, it's one of those, like, if you don't know about this, you visit a park and you see, oh, what's this? And here it directs you to it. Has that been a thought at all?
It's an excellent idea I'm making a note of right now.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. We're looking at, again, how we can take it to the next level. So we don't have that plan yet because it is financial also, so.
Ms. Rubio.
So add one more thing to your note, fire station, to be able to stop and get one there too, because we've done that, just the kids and I out of state. All, those are kind of the spots that we had to go to when we did passports.
Would police station work too, chief?
Yeah, I mean, all city, you can technically put all city buildings, right? I mean, ideally, we
City
want
Hall would be a
traffic.
good one too.
We
Yeah,
want traffic
clerk would love
in
to
the
do that.
buildings, yeah, so I love it.
We would be very excited to expand this program anywhere and everywhere we can.
Yes.
Gonna add, do we have the historical site right here in this town center as one then? Now that I'm thinking, I just don't know who would stamp it.
We're looking for volunteers on the
Museum,
Park
yeah.
Passport Committee for good ideas.
There we go, yeah, right, sorry.
No, absolutely.
Okay, any further questions for Scott?
Nope.
Yes.
Your second line down, city park work with public works and parks and recreation to improve our parks and amenities. One of the things that I've been harping at is the maintenance in our parks.
Yes.
Both at the Iditarod Park, I mean, our equipment is getting to be sadly
Seasoned.
overused, let's just put it that way. That's a gentle way of saying that it really needs some tender loving care. And then the beach at Newcomb Park, in my opinion, with the holes in the beach that go down 3 feet,
Yes.
you know, I can lose little kids in them. I mean, we need to improve
Yeah.
and do some maintenance. So, in addition, some of the playground equipment there, because my grandkids play there a lot, really could use some improvement. I mean,
Yeah.
park benches are the point where if you sit on them, you might get slivers.
Yeah.
We can do better than that in the city, especially if we're gonna be driving people to these parks
Right.
with this. So I really think we need to put our thinking caps on, spend some money and fix and improve our facilities along with
Mr.
that
Johnson,
bullet point.
if I can interrupt you, you would need to discuss that with Public Works. That's not under Scott.
Yeah. So I'm.
As it is,
I interact as representative of the Park and Rec Commission, so I'm kind of the in-between if it's the community, Public Works, or the commission, so I'm kind of the in-betweens, but my primary is the events, but it's a source to communicate things like that, absolutely, because the Park and Rec Commission, you know, part of their responsibility is the master plan, and if the master plan is looking at new parks expanding, then we can drive it that direction, so absolutely.
yes, in terms of improving, I mean, I would expect the master plan to come from you guys, especially if you're going to replace playground equipment. Some of that can be fairly expensive, and we would like, at least I would like to see a plan, you know, to do so, or at least to improve what we've got. And I don't really see that as Public Works. You know, maybe filling in the beach would be Public Works.
Yeah. Yeah, adding more, those things kind of comes out of the Park and Rec Commission. Maintenance, operation of the parks is a Public Works. So again, it's working with is kind of the idea, is that we can all kind of come together to meet the city needs and the vision. Absolutely.
Thank you, Scott.
Sorry for taking so much time, everybody.
Next up is HR.
Short people move, sorry, gotta lower it a little bit. Okay. Good evening, council members, Madam Mayor. I'm Kimberly, Human Resources Manager here for the city of Wasilla, and I want to talk to you about some of the things that we've accomplished this year and some of our plans going forward. You can see our mission statement. We've also added a vision statement. That's not something that the HR department has before. I think it's really important to make sure that we're conveying that the city of Wasilla is one of the better employers in the area, and I'm biased, I understand that. But we have so much to offer here as far as positions, growth, development, as well as the benefits that a lot of individuals are going for. So we're really trying to reshape the HR department to make it more of a focal point for the city and bring that attention to the applicants that are available in the areas. So one of our goals this year was to facilitate the council's goal of establishing electronic processes and systems. And we have done that through the NeoGov system that council previously approved and then the new modules that they approved earlier this year. One of the things that I really wanted to bring focus to is what NeoGov has done for the city in allowing us to bring new applicants in. Previously, we did have a module of NeoGov that was not fully developed, and you can see the numbers on our 2023 chart there on the left side. We had a good deal of applicants, but they were primarily of certain demographics. And overall, when you're looking at the number of applicants that we've had for positions, we were a little bit lower. We were in the lower 300s. Having built out this recruitment module of NeoGov this year, you can see we've already had a significant increase in both the number of applicants as well as the demographics of those applicants. We're able to reach more people, bring more interest to the positions that we have here at the city. This has taken us everywhere from taking our current recruitment system and just using it like a job board to actually putting job descriptions on there, listing the benefits on there, getting information about the different departments that we have in the city to allow people to bring more interest to the positions that we've had. Our accomplishments continue for this goal. The e-forms project that we're working on, that is now fully integrated. So we have a number of our electronic forms available for our employees, and we're rolling this out to each department as we do our HR visits, which I'll discuss a little bit. So now everything from updating a direct deposit form, putting in a leave request, applying for FMLA or AFLA leave, ADA requests, leave donations, all of those are available for the employees. And we've had a great response in the few weeks that we've had this rolled out to them. The employees are able to go online, do the forms themselves, they automatically route to the appropriate department for processing, and there's no more something got lost in distribution, something didn't get signed in time. The system is keeping that for us. In addition, it's also building the employees' electronic personnel files. So we're migrating from the hard copy files to the electronic files, and that's going to give the employees greater transparency. They're going to have access to their files immediately. They just need to go online and look at them instead of making an appointment to come to HR and make a copy of them. Another module that we're working on is the Perform module, and that's really changing how we're going to be doing our evaluations. Right now, everybody in the city uses the same evaluation form. So my evaluation form looks exactly like Scott's and Chief Rapson's. Doesn't really cater to what I'm doing. So we're developing the Perform module, which will allow the evaluations to be based off the job descriptions, which is going to give us a better accuracy of how everyone's doing in their positions. Plus, we're going to be having one-on-one coaching sessions with the supervisors quarterly, having those documented in the system. There's going to be peer ratings that can be done. And we're changing from going to having the supervisor do the evaluation, then present it to the employee, to having the employee do the evaluation first. And really get that interaction in there and get that feedback and help bring the employees' buy-in into what we're doing. The last module is one that we're also working on, which is Learn. And this is taking all of our training that we're using through our insurance company, APEI, into the NeoGov system. It's going to provide a dashboard for the managers. Employees can do everything from self-development courses, professional leadership courses, as well as training on the positions that they currently utilize. One of the really neat things about NeoGov is strictly for public sector. There's over 1,600 state and local governments that utilize NeoGov all over the world. So their training module is really built towards what we do: wastewater, police services, HR, finance. So it's going to give them an opportunity to have more appropriate training that's going to assist them in their succession in the city. Internal equity, it was one of our accomplishments. So prior to me coming to the city in January of 2024, council authorized a 20% increase for the non-represented pay schedules, which was greatly appreciated. And it's really done a lot to help our employees, both in recruitment as well as retention. But we have some more things to work on. We are currently in phase 1 of a process that we're going through, and this is to update our job descriptions. This was something that council authorized in August of this year. We have gone through and issued position description questionnaires, I have to say that slowly, to all of our non-represented employees. They've gone through and completed these, listing out all the duties for their positions, what the skills they think they need for the positions, as well as the educational requirements. They then go to the supervisors or department directors who review them and make any adjustments. Once those are done, the company that we're utilizing, which is McGrath, will go through and develop our job descriptions. This is the key jumping off point for getting our performance management system in place, making sure those job descriptions are up and current. Now, we are only doing the non-represented employees. I've spoken with all of our unions and let them know that we are welcoming any input that they would like to put into. So if they want to go through and work with us on job descriptions, go through phase 2, which is going to be a classification study, which I'll discuss in a moment, and then finally phase 3, which is a wage study. So we are partnering with them. They have more resources geared towards the departments that they work with than we ever could by contracting with another company. So utilizing them and what they have available is going to help us fully encompass all the city positions and make sure that everything's updated and accurate. This is phase 2 and phase 3, which I previously mentioned. We're going to be going to RFP. We'll come into council first for permission and then going to RFP for a classification study in January. That's going to take all these new job descriptions that we've updated and make sure that they're properly placed on our pay chart, that we're being competitive with where the positions go and how we're compensating those individuals. And then after we're done with that, then we'll go through and do a wage study as well.
So I have a question there. Phase 2, phase 3 says the classification and wage study will be completed. I think we spent $75,000 on the one that we did. It was fairly expensive, and we were told it was all the information we needed, and now you're telling us we didn't need to spend that money. We should have done something else with it. What is it that is missing and what is are we looking at another $75,000 from a contractor? What are we looking at here?
So the one that was done previously was done, I believe, in 2022. That one, they utilized a company for it. In reviewing that wage study, there were some things that gave me pause. First of all, the job descriptions most of the job descriptions had not been updated in some time, so we're utilizing old job descriptions. The company that went through and did the wage study looked at comparator cities, Palmer, Kenai, Ketchikan, so on and so forth. For some of if you go through and you read the appendix of it, some of the comparator cities that they didn't have job descriptions. So they just called the individual cities and said, hey, what does this job do? They got a little rundown from the HR department, whoever provided that information, and then they used that to compare a city Wasilla job to whatever that comparator city is. One of the other concerns that I have with that job description, with that wage study, was that they compared positions more than one time. So they used, I'm just gonna pull in a Public Works position, say our Deputy Director of Public Works. They compared it against a maintenance superintendent over in Palmer, but then they also compared that maintenance superintendent to our project manager. So we weren't really looking at appropriate comparisons. With regards to the costs, the cost associated with the current one was $29,000 to get the job descriptions updated. I would guess we're looking at about $15,000 for the classification study. That is something that we can do in the house. However, that's something that we want to talk about, because when you have your HR department who's there servicing all of your employees for everything from things that they like to things that they have concerns about with regards to the city, now coming in and saying, guess what, you're going to be a lower grade, that erodes some of that trust, and that could cause some problems with our ability to be effective in the future. So having that outsourced, it is a good idea, but we can look at different pricing. With the wage study, I do have some resources available to me. The AML study that the city, as well as the rest of the cities, participate in annually, that's going to be our jumping off point. If we need to invest in having a company come in and do that work for us, that's certainly something that we'll bring back to council, but I think that's a section that we can do in-house.
So you mentioned AML, and their comparisons there, it's not much of a study there, and participation is voluntary and
Correct.
spotty, to put it mildly on that. But AML has become much more, I hate to say aggressive, but much more aggressive in fulfilling the needs of communities. Do you think it would be worthwhile to consider the possibility of having AML do that study through their contractor? So instead of our one contractor looking at, certain things, AML is looking at statewide issues and statewide job descriptions and that sort of stuff, as well as, a few outside cities that would be comparable to. Are you convinced that we need a contractor, or that we could use the resources of the Alaska Municipal League to help with that?
I believe that we can utilize the resources of the Alaska Municipal League to a great deal. In addition, the communities here in Alaska are always, as far as HR goes, and I'm sure all the other departments, if I pick up the phone and I call the HR department in Sitka and I say, can you send me your pay charts? They'll do that for us. So we can definitely minimize the cost between the two, between those one-on-one contacts with the other cities that are comparators, as well as utilizing the services within AML.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Workforce development. Previously, this goal has been associated with making partnerships with other organizations to help bring in those individuals that we need here in the city to help us be successful in performance of our duties. But I really think that it's been a missed opportunity, because we can't really be effective at our recruiting until we know what it takes to do the job. Saying we have somebody in Public Works, we're looking for a wastewater technician, I can go online and I can read the job description, or I can pull it up and read it. But if I'm not actually knowing what's going on there, that's really missing a lot of the puzzle. So one of the things that we've started this year is HR department visits. We go to every department every month. We make an appointment, we sit down, we talk to the employees, find out what their concerns are, find out things that are going great, any opportunities we have for improvement. One of the other things that we've done is a day in the life. So HR goes out and works at different departments, spends a couple hours working on shifts, actually getting in there and doing the job. So when we're doing those job description updates, or we're doing the interviews, or we're doing recruitment, we actually know what the challenges are that come with those positions. So we've started that for this year. Next year, we are going to expand it to additional departments and make sure that we have that touch spot with each of the departments. It's been really great. It's been received very well among the departments. We've really helped build a great rapport with them, just coming out and doing the department visits, and then with those departments that we're currently working at. So we're going to be expanding that. Once we, my time is up.
Memeber.
we have that knowledge base, then we'll be reaching out to different partners. And there are a number of different partners in the area that we can reach out to, and I've listed a couple of them here. But that's gonna put us in a better position to know what our recruitment needs are when we're going out and saying, what can you do to help us? What type of skill set does your group have? And making sure that we're putting those people in a position that's going to be beneficial to them as well as help them be successful in the city. A look into the future, some of the things that we're looking at is establishing an actual safety department. Right now, HR has the safety department. We have meetings quarterly with representatives from the unions as well as the various departments, but actually possibly looking into having a safety position, someone with that knowledge base that can go out and do the OSHA inspections with us, that can go out and make recommendations, help our public works departments with their SCSs, and get those things set up, as well as share some of the burden with finance. Right now, finance is our risk management department. So they're handling all the claims, liability, vehicle, HR processes, the workers' comp claims, but finance department is really working hand in hand with our insurance company. So helping to take some of that burden off them as well. And then working on succession planning. And the other items that I spoke with earlier about NeoGov is really gonna help us with that succession planning. We're developing a mentorship program, doing cross-training, and having peer groups. And that's it.
Questions? Mr. Graham?
Thank you. So you talked about establishing a safety department. How many other cities our size actually have a safety department as opposed to having safety kind of farmed out to the different departments?
That is not information that I have, and that's why it's on one of those things that I will be looking into. It could be one of those things that, not necessarily safety department, but having a safety person, but I have to do further research on that.
Yeah, my experience with the civilian sector shows that that's a pretty spendy ask when you try to centralize it. But also I'd be interested in finding out if other cities our size are doing something similar and if they're seeing it as being successful.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay. Next is the museum. And Mr. Graham, the study that was done was when Troy was here, and it was $27,000 is what it cost us.
And then we've spent $29,000 since then, plus other things. So yeah, I'm just trying to get a handle on this. I'm not objecting to spending money, but I am just trying to figure out if we did it wrong before, how can we do it right next?
Well, if you'd have seen this study, you would have known it was, AML done a better job. Let me just say that. All right. Bethany.
Bethany Buckingham Follett, curator of the Wasilla Museum and Visitor Center. First, thank you, Mayor and council members, for your continued support of the museum, our programs, our events, our projects, our exhibits. Without you, we could not accomplish what we do, and I'm excited to share with you those accomplishments today. I also want to thank our fellow departments for their collaborations and assistance this year. It takes all of us to move the city forward, and so I appreciate all their help whenever we call. Also, I would like to introduce Megan Bruckner. She is our museum aide in the back of the area there. One of the motions or movement forward that the mayor has put for us is succession planning, and so that is why she is here. I'm starting to bring her on. I'm not planning on leaving, so don't think of anything like that, but just to get her up to speed as to what it is to present to council and what kind of things a director does. So I'm excited to have her today. And if there are any questions, she's also here to help me answer those questions. All right, so again, just to reiterate, our mission is using stories and imagination to foster community. And we do that through our vision and our strategy. You guys have seen this before, but I just wanted to highlight that our vision is that we will amplify the power of personal stories to enrich our shared experiences by being a home for collections, a partner in lifelong learning, an advocate for and steward of historical resources, and a facilitator for compelling, meaningful, and enjoyable learning experiences. a workplace that attracts, retains, and develops talented people, and a vibrant social, cultural, and economic center for the city. So our accomplishments, again, one of our main goals is to have exhibits. We have had exhibits. I'm not going to highlight, we have a lot of accomplishments to go through, so I just want to pull out a few of those to keep us on task and on target. The biggest accomplishment for us this year was within our museum collections. We were just awarded a Museum Alaska Collections Management Fund grant in the cost of $19,109.92 to complete important conservation work on our collection of historical garments, train staff to do more in-house preservation work, and to give a community workshop on care for family collections. We will see that legislation coming through in January, so please accept it, because we would like to do this work this next year. We were also awarded a 2-year grant, basically a $5,160 in-kind donation from Preservica Starter. What Preservica is, so it is a digital preservation software, and they have given us a grant for 2 years to install the software, to use it, to work with it, and then in 2 years we will take over that cost. So this is a kind of a see how it fits, see if it works, and if it's what we need. So far, we're really excited at the possibilities that it can bring to us. We've also worked with the Connect Rural Youth Program, training teen volunteers to come in and process collections, learn about their history, help us with programming, and learn about museum procedures. And then we also worked with the AmeriCorps Youth program to condition report and pack the Arctic Winter Games exhibit, which was very helpful for us in getting that those 4 crates packed back up. We are still working on the buildings. Unfortunately, we found that we had asbestos in the historical community hall that will be turning 100 in 2031. So we're getting on that it's an older building. So we were working on so the city paid for the first round of asbestos abatement, and we were looking for DEC to do another round of asbestos abatement that did not get done with the previous RFP. We are also working with the national...
And is that building usable in its current state, or do we have to?
Not yet. There's still asbestos. We've had to encapsulate some of the asbestos, so it still needs to be removed because it was not removed in the initial RFP. So that's why we're looking for another grant to do the final portion of it. We're working with the architectural historian with the National Park Service about installing a metal roof at the railroad depot, and then reviewing the Dorothy Page Center, which is the 1931 Community Hall, for the Main Street project. So we are collaborating with Public Works. Modernizing our museum procedures, we've created 3 new museum web pages to provide information about donations, abandoned property, digital donation, copyright licensing, and volunteering. One of the biggest things we have is people who leave collections in our mailbox to find in the morning with no information as to who donated or where it comes from. That unfortunately kicks it into abandoned property, which means that we need to hold it for 7 years before we can actually start work on getting it to be owned in our collection. So we have to mark that it was left there. We have to try to find who owned it and who donated it. If not, then we have 7 years. At that point, we still work on finding who donated it. If no one comes forward after 7 years, that is the end process that we can go through the state and say, this was abandoned, we were taking care of it, we would like to take ownership of it. It's the state statute for any abandoned property anywhere. So it's not just for museums, it's all of us. We were trying to go through the legislation this year with Museums Alaska. I was board president of Museums Alaska this year. We had legislation that was presented to the state legislature to minimize those years from going to 7 to 3. That did not pass, so we are going back to the drawing board and working again to get that that year amount limited so that we are not using resources on items that don't belong to us and we can't use. That's the problem that we have with abandoned property is, again, we don't have ownership, so literally we're just holding on to it until we can gain that ownership. We collaborated with the clerk's records management consultant about updating the city's records retention schedule that affect museum records as well as the city's historical records. So I hope it's been a good collaboration, Jamie. You can say yes or no.
So the conserve sensors that, if you go back one, your bottom bullet there, is that like humidity, temperature?
Correct, that is our environmental monitoring. And we, again, you will see that in our budget coming in the next few years. We are looking to add 2 per year, just because of the costs. It also allows us to see where our problems are, and we can move some monitors to there if we need to, and that also determines if we need to add more, because then we're not monitoring another area. Basically, so far my staff is happy. No, I'm kidding. She can say no, it's fine.
Happy to be here.
Right? We also are assisting with logistics of different events around the city. And I have been myself with, I think it's Lieutenant Lopez. I am so bad with what they're, is that right, Chief? Is it Lieutenant Lopez or is it Sergeant Lopez? Lieutenant Lopez, yes. So we've both been named to the Local Emergency Planning Committee for representation. So we represent the city on that borough-wide committee. The other thing I'd like to point out, and one of the things we've done this year, we are focusing on collections. We're focusing on making sure that we have ownership, we have copyright, we are able to use those. That's the main issue that we have had, is who has copyright, who has ownership of our collections, of our photographs. So we've been working on getting that process done. Within all of that, that takes up a lot of time, so it doesn't allow us the time to do a lot of the public programming that we have in the past. But in order to do more public programming, we have to have that information and that backing of our collections. So with that, I was selected to join the FEMA Master Public Information Officer Program. In March of 2022, I was appointed as the City Emergency Public Information Officer. So whenever there's an emergency, I'm the one that helps put out information. I work with the police department, I work with MATCOM, and we try to get information out to the public as to what they need to do, where they need to go, what needs to happen. This all came about because of the 2022 windstorms. With that, there's training that needs to happen. So I have been on a very fast track the last 2 years. Normally it takes between 5 to 10 years to get this Master Public Information Officer designation. I am now one of 179 within the world. We did have an international cohort this year, the first one of the 9 cohorts that have been hosted. And I'm the 3rd Master Public Information Officer in the state of Wasilla, or in the state of Alaska. So there's only 3 of us here. Compared to, I think Florida has 56. They do have a higher population though. So that has taken me away from a lot of museum duties this year, but now that that is completed, I can focus more on the museum, our collections, our buildings, and our move forward.
Okay. Mr. Graham?
Could you spell out that acronym down there at the bottom, ICS? What is ICS?
Incident Command System.
Instant Command System, thank you.
We are also being seen as experts in our field. So we are being contacted by multiple organizations to consult with them, to help them with their collections, with their artifacts that they have. We were contacted by the Alaska Defense Force to consult about the Alcantara Youth Camp historical site and the outdoor sculpture that we had. We were invited by the Palmer Hayflats to contribute to the planning process for the Scout Ridge Loop Trail cultural interpretation. We were contacted by Hatcher Pass Independence Mine. They've asked us to consult on the grant application that they had. They did some OSHA testing, and so they were wanting to make sure that we discussed with them before they took their objects for OSHA to test. They also are consulting us on basic collections care, establishing an archives, because we've already done that with our papers, and then also cataloging their collections and exhibit and interpretations. So what we're looking towards is, as we move toward the future, we will be a resource, but we can also possibly monetize those consultations. So by obtaining the grant that we did, the program that we're doing, we are gaining more experience in museum preservation. We were also contacted by the Cordova Museum to consult with them about their staff structure. They were restructuring what they were doing, and they liked our structure here at the City of Wasilla, so they asked us what we did and how they could do something similar in theirs. And we also provided historical photos to the clerk's office for the anniversary. So we are looking at becoming a historical resource, a information resource, as well as those professional consultants that people can come to and ask questions.
Can you advance your slide, please?
Okay. We've also collaborated with digitizing and facilitating licensing of the Joseph Alexander photos, which is a large collection of original negatives related to World War II, statehood, the Constitutional Convention, and other significant moments in Alaska history dating back to the 1940s. And we are also fulfilling research requests on the history of Wasilla, and that is our main task, is that this history is not in a book. These are things that we have to go to different websites, we have to talk to different people, we have to look within our own collection to give this information to people. It's not in one resource. So these are things that take a while for us to put together to give to these people. One of those was homesteads here in the valley. We had to go online, look at the historical homesteads that I believe the Department of Natural Resources might have had, or the Office of History and Archaeology, but it was a family that lived here. He wanted to go back and visit those. We actually found out they were right across from Idita Park. So we were able to tell him exactly where those homesteads were, because he was like 12 years old when he left, so he was hoping to go back and see that. He came back and told us that he appreciated what we had done. He shared his stories with us that we were able to include in our collection now, and so these are the relationships that we're building. So with all of these accomplishments that we've done this year, again, we are continuing to promote economic development and diversification by upgrading our buildings, renovating museum town sites. We're reviewing insurance costs on the buildings right now because we want to make sure that we're not over-insuring and we're not under-insuring. So if these buildings, something happens to them, we want to make sure that the city gets the best cost. We're working with redoing our rental plan as to what those costs will be for people who want to rent the facility. We've had a standing rental right now with a dog, they do a scent work, and so they come and they use our buildings so the dogs can test their scent work. Search and Rescue has come and used our buildings as well to do, finding people, finding objects, finding things, so that's been a good resource for the community. The Boy Scouts are using it every month for their monthly leaders meetings, and they've actually increased their attendance since they've started meeting with us last year. So a year ago, they went from about 5 people on to about 15 that have come. So, and it keeps building every year or every month, and they keep adding to their presentations. The other goal that we have, really quick, since I have 16 seconds left. Again, a lot of them, they replicate last year's goals. And again, there are parts that we accomplish each year, but these are ones that will be accomplished by the end of 2029. Again, looking for more grant funding opportunities. We want to maximize the value of the museum's Preservica account by uploading 250 gigabytes of digital archives and piloting a program for secure access through a research user role. This will start with other city departments, so they will be able to come online at Preservica, see what we have available and use in their facilities. And then after we kind of pilot the city department project, then we can open it and expand it to the public. And we're hoping to do that by January 13th of 2026. We're also working on the collections rehousing and storage organization projects because we've been moving between both buildings for the last few years. So that is going to be finished by next year, 2025. And then again, complete that collections management fund grant by September 30th. Again, just continuing to modernize our museum procedures, increasing that public access to our collections. We are stewards of the public's objects, and so they need access to it, and having personal in-person access, but as well as online access for those who are no longer here in the state but still want to research their family histories. And we're also working on building a healthy community and strong workforce. We want to develop those partnerships with local, state, national organizations to rent, create exhibits, provide an understanding of the larger world story, and incorporate our community within the larger context. These groups that we're looking at is the Alaska State Museum, Mat-Su Salmon Partnership, Rotaries, Wasilla City Historical Society, Mat-Su Borough Office of Emergency Management, the Alaska Department of Forestry, Mat-Su Red Cross chapter as well. So looking at having them, the community, tell their story.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Bethany, on that slide there, you're
Which one?
thank you, where it says create connectivity between the Townsite Museum and Dorothy Page Center through an accessible green space for public use and enjoyment.
Yes.
So is this a green space you're planning, hoping
To
to
build.
put in? And where exactly would you?
Between the two buildings. So parking would be along the back in the alleyway, so we would not be losing parking spots.
So you would just change where you park instead of where
Correct.
you park alongside?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's with the couplet as well. So I believe the couplet is going to cut off and block that on the new plan.
Thank you.
Okay. Again, just emergency preparedness, as we've seen, there's, as we've seen with the fires in Lahaina, as we've seen in North Carolina, the destruction to the cultural heritage, we want to make sure that we are prepared if anything like that ever happens here. So creating that Prepare in a Year exhibit to educate the public how they can prepare their home collections to be minimal impact if anything happens. One of the things that happened was Juneau had that dam, the glacial dam break, and so the flooding that happened there, a lot of people lost their heritage and their collections and their homes. So we want to make sure that we're training our community to be prepared for those emergencies. We're also going to work on update the city emergency operations plan, the museum portion within that, our disaster preparedness and recovery plan, and our continuity of operations plan. And then basically incorporate safety measures, just continue making sure that our staff is safe. We're working with the IT department to apply for grants to incorporate staff safety for panic buttons, increased more panic buttons, more cameras throughout the buildings and the outdoor areas of the museum. So it was a very quick, truncated, but you have all of our goals and accomplishments, so you guys can look at those. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you. So, Bethany, thanks for the presentation, very informative. Has the city worked with the MTA Foundation? I know they have funded digitization of, historical things for other communities. Have we looked into their?
I have not, but I will be looking into that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Bethany.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, council. Have a great night.
All right, Cindy. Planning Department.
Hello, my name is Cindy Wellman, and I am in the planning department, and I'm very happy to be here. I wasn't intending to be here initially, but due to an absence, I'm gonna start over here. Here I am now. So I wanted to tell you just really, really quickly a little about myself, because a lot of you know me from other capacities, but I was here at the city 3 years ago, and I left and I was working with the clerk's department. Prior to that, I worked with federal, state, and local government in different capacities. I managed a sewer district for 10 years, worked with the FAA, worked for the state fair during my absence. But I'm mainly telling you that because when I got back here, I was blown away because I left in January of 2021 and I got back in January of 2024. And the difference between what the things were, which were good, and how far the city had progressed during that time frame is just monumental. I am sitting back here right now on a computer that I'm able to sit here and issue permits because we just are booming in the city, kind of to dovetail on what Scott Bell was saying, and also Kim. We're so busy here, and that is such a good thing. But we've been able to have things here in the planning department that allows us to be able to work efficiently, and that's the direction that we're moving towards. So, let's see here. Let me get my little thing here. So our vision statement is, it includes commerce, connectivity, community, council, to create a vibrant and resilient community by encouraging economic development that enhances the quality of life for residents of all ages and abilities. And our goal number 1, update the city's adopted plans by the end of 2027 to reflect vision for future growth, promotes economic development, prioritize life and safety standards to protect the quality of life, and creates a vibrant and resilient community. So one of the strategies was, as you've all been working through the rewrite of Title 16, as has our Planning Commission been reviewing the Title 16 after you've been going through it. And so it was to rewrite Title 16 to be consistent, easily understood, and focused on life and safety issues. I think the most important thing, when I opened up, and I've been working with code for a number of years, but when I opened up that to Title 16 and I looked at it and I thought, oh no, this doesn't match this, and this is missing here. And so you've made such progress, and you've taken a document that was this thick and is now down to this level, and it's very easily understood. And I do agree, the focus on life and safety, it was subjective as well. But the bottom line is that what it's going to allow you to do is it's going to be able to achieve the goals that you want as the council and the mayor. But then it also allows the staff to be able to carry out those goals. So if you would like to have bees in this property owner, have bees over here, we in the planning department will be able to say, yes, you may have bees here and they must be this far away, without having to take a lot of time to be able to figure out for that particular scenario. So the next thing was to update the comprehensive plan, which will be increasing stakeholder engagement, zone compatibility, and future land use. So this is a once in a 10-year process that happens here at the city, and we're a little bit overdue because the last one was done in 2011, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. But increasing stakeholder engagement has been one of the things that I've been able to, as I've been talking to people in the community, that they just want to be heard. They want to be able to say, I moved here on the lake, and when I moved here on the lake, there was barely any people here. And now there's all these people around, and I don't know what to do. And we want to hear those people, and we need to work on marketing so that we can get the word out and say, come back and tell us what zones are going to be best working for you as a residential person. What zone as a commercial business owner is going to be best for you. So I believe that's going to go really well as we move forward with that. So the next one here. Our goal number 2 is to automate the permitting process and adjust fee schedules that are consistent, clear, and meaningful, and decreases the cost of permitting and increases stakeholder engagement. So I'll touch just briefly on the cost portion of it. We've got some pretty great rates. I've heard how much it costs in other areas around here to get permitting. And I think there's something to be said to have a value to what you're going to be purchasing. If it's too little, then you think, oh, this isn't worth anything. Why do I even have to do this? But then if it's too big, it might actually somebody who was supposed to get a permit might shy away from it because it's just too expensive. So looking at these permit costs to be able to say, it took 10 minutes to be able, or it took me 10 hours to do this, but yet we're charging $25. That it doesn't correlate. So we're working towards looking at those costs. The strategy, we're going to be expanding permitting capabilities that access historical records, business licensing, and land use permits in one environment. Right now, we're half in, or not even half in. Most of our world is in a paper format. We have, with the assistance of the clerk's office, they took a look when they were doing their records management study, and they saw what we saw, which is we just volumes and volumes of documents. So we're getting our arms around that. But a number of years ago, I believe 2022, we entered into the world of the electronic permitting process. And so we need to find a happy medium so that we can bring those paper records into the digital form, and so that people will be able to see, go online, look at their property and say, oh, look, I have looks like I do have a permit for that structure that was built over by my house, the garage. So that's a goal. Next, expand the regional partnerships that focus on streamlining duplicate services such as addressing and emergency operations compliance. The addressing portion of this is something that we haven't, we were just barely getting into this part. And I could speak more on this, but we've got a lot to straighten up with this. It's a big, it's a big one. Next is allocate the necessary resources to enhance customer service experience and compliance services to increase the retention of customers. So as I mentioned the other day when I was at the plant at your city council meeting, I love to welcome people to the city on the front end versus sending our code compliance enforcement officer out to say, oh, you're doing something wrong. So one of the things we've been doing, like for example, just on the bottom of my emails, there is a customer service, you just QR code, you can click right here and you give feedback. So we want to use the marketing, get the word out, especially with the Title 16 as it gets deployed. We need to be able to tell the people these are going to be our new codes. We just need a lot of ability to engage with the customers. So next we have, let's go to the next one here. Goal 3, modernize the planning and permitting processes to provide efficient and timely permit application reviews and ease of access to zoning information for community and prospective developers and business owners. So the strategy is to share data and tools that deliver immediate information to residents, businesses, and investors, i.e. the data steering and online zoning maps and historical records. The online zoning maps, I'm going to go ahead and say this right now, it is in our accomplishments this year. I believe is one of the biggest things that we've done, and Crystal initiated this. She put our zoning maps online. You can now log into the city website, you type in your address, it shows you the zone that you're in, it then brings up the permits, any permits that you may need, if, for example, if you wanted to have a home occupation in your home, you could go and look and see if you could have that, or could you build an additional structure? It makes it very nice. In addition to that, we are now partnering with the borough. They are hosting that on their property page as well. So you just look there and you can see there's those land use online zoning map information. The next strategy is to engage in the community and provide lunch and learns about the internal processes associated with permitting, licensing, and code compliance, and listen to the people's concerns. I pretty much touched on that. And work closely with finance to evaluate the future ERP's benefits. This is the ERP. I was watching your meeting the other night. I was out of town, but I was watching it. And when Eric complimented Cassie on doing the changeovers to the new ERP programs, one of the things that's going to help us so much is this ERP, because right now we're operating in a couple different worlds. We're using MuniRevs to do the business licensing. We have permitting over here. We have all these different places, but the customer, they just want ease of access. And if we can streamline this so that we're not having to have extra steps to do this, and the customer or the citizens are as well, it's really going to move things along. And so I'm very, very excited about the ERP, as well as the borough. The borough uses the program that we are looking at, and that's going to be a nice feature as well. We spoke with the fire marshal, and we're excited about what that could look like as we're looking at the different checks and balances when we have our conditional use permits as well. So, let's see here. So the Planning Department 2024 accomplishments, we, really, this was you guys, the rewrite of the 80% is complete. I just kind of sat back and watched where each of you were doing this. We moved closer to the Public Works area to increase collaboration and increase customer service work. And that was amazing, because now that we're not up, behind a closed door, people have access to us right away. We temporarily staffed a customer service person to answer calls, greet customers, and schedule pre-application meetings with planning and public works. So these pre-application meetings are instrumental. Instead of somebody going online and filling out a permit application and then, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But we schedule an appointment with them. We meet with them, maybe 30 minutes if it's a halfway big one, or longer, or maybe even 15 minutes. And I'm able to say, ask the questions I need to. I check off the boxes, and then we send them on their way to do their permit. And then I'm able to streamline at the other end to issue that permit. So, and then the next thing is the comp plan update has been procured, and it will begin, I guess it's fall, but it says fall here, but I believe it's coming later on. We're getting more information about that. And then the online access to the zoning maps and the applicable types of permits needed per zone. The creation of processes and standard forms for permitting process. Even today, I had to deliver something up to the mayor's office, and as I was doing it, I said, I need to create a transmittal letter, so now I have one. But, that's just a small thing, but we have bigger processes that we've already started to implement, where a conditional use somebody who's coming in for a conditional use permit, I hand them a timeline of what it's going to look like for the process, so that they know exactly from start to finish, on this date, we're gonna do this, 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 and this, and it helps me too to stay on track. And then finally, a team building approach for all internal and external partners. I want to back up one thing here on the creation of processes and standard forms. This is really going to help as we implement the ERP, because if we have everything, a person who's sitting right here has said this many times, is garbage in, garbage out. If we have good information going into the new ERP, then it's going to save so much time versus bringing over bad information. So getting these processes and everything standardized beforehand, we're going to be golden, or at least a little better.
Okay. Mr. Graham?
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. I'm looking at your third bullet there, temporarily staffed customer service person. That was you, or was that the function you were fulfilling before you moved up? Or is your position the position that you were filling, is that position gonna continue to be there? Because that's been critical interface between the planning department, and the users.
So that position is actually a third position. We got temporary staffing, so it falls under our HR department, where we can have some administrative help. And so the person, it was challenging to figure out, how can I best utilize this person? But what I was doing is she became the scheduler. She would answer the telephone. I would create special projects for her. She answers the telephone. She schedules the appointments. That person, I've been told I can have for some additional time during some transition. But as far as me, I was actually the planning clerk. So that person that position would need to be backfilled as I move forward. And the thing I will be working towards is my planning certification. I don't have that now, but that is something we'll be working towards.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, Chief, you're up. You've got 11 whole minutes.
Perfect.
Good evening. Those who may not know me. Chief Rapson, WPD. I gotta hit here. Arrow button. Strategic goals, a lot of these you're gonna see, probably repetitive from last year. Because they're that important to me to kind of continue on. I think some of the accomplishments are gonna kind of relate to last year and how we're gonna continue to move forward from here on out, and continue to set that baseline and that foundation of how WPD will move forward. And really, I kind of narrowed it down to 3 different specific goals, and for me, it's professionalism and organizational excellence. Some of the accomplishments that we had last year and will continue to move forward is to continue and certify and host CIT training, which is crisis intervention training. That has been something that's been pretty important to me for having the whole department be certified in that and de-escalation techniques because of the increase in mental health that's not only in the area here but statewide and nationwide. We are hosting another CIT Academy. We try to do 2 a year with assistance from the state troopers at WPD to get as many people that we can in the area trained. It has been relatively successful. We had committed into having 2 of our officers certified instructors so that we can host it and work with the Massachusetts Health Foundation, who is a wonderful partnership on making sure that these initiatives get done. We implemented annual active shooter training, which is actually going to be happening during Christmas break at one of the local schools here. That's something that an initiative that I wanted to do. We are incorporating. Matter of fact, here in a couple of weeks, we'll start incorporating the Massachusetts Borough, the state troopers, into that training to be more of a grand scale. Time frame on that's kind of TBD, but it's something that we need to work on our partnerships because unfortunately if a critical incident like that happens in the area, we're all going to be working together and we need to train together so that everyone has a clear understanding of kind of what's going on. So we are hosting that to get through some of our annual stuff and with the goal of to be a more broad, more larger grand scale of training from here on out. So we're kind of developing into more in-service training, kind of committed into having our officers be more instructors so that we can do more in-house training. We're actually doing a little light firearms training right now at a Birchwood range, courtesy to APD. And they may be finishing up shooting right now. If not, I've already finished or completed, but we realize that it is Alaska. A lot of times that we are in the dark and we need to train that we're in the dark. So we started that. Our firearms instructors have implemented a great program to continue on with that and then do in-house control tactics. As I kind of spoke a couple weeks ago, we had finally an investigator or a detective in with the drug unit that those numbers that I read out from the time that he had started have been absolutely instrumental. I get briefed weekly on kind of the work in their work that they're doing in the area, and they are making a difference, and it's a great commit that we get to have that grant fully funded for that position to be in there for another year. Continuing on with our SROs, we have our SROs now kind of leading the charge for the Massachusetts Valley. We have a great relationship with the borough. We have our SROs teaching students and staff on different topics of social media awareness to drugs and alcohol, and then having those relationships inside the school. And it's been a great relationship and a partnership, and we're going to continue to do that as part of our professionalism. And one of the biggest things that constantly I think a lot of us hears is the recruit and hire and retain the best candidates possible. I was about a year ago, a little over a year ago, it was a great feeling to have 6 positions filled in a year. And just as quick as I said that, we were down another 6. I look back on and I find out why we're leaving. And, for the positive aspect of that, they're not leaving to go to other local departments or you had life happen. One got married to a state trooper that got, sent off to a different location. One moved out of state, one retired, one's a backfill, and then we had a couple that just wasn't able to pass our training program. So just like being up 6, we're down 6, and we're currently down 2 right now. We have 2 currently down at the Lateral Academy, and I'm optimistic that the bunch that we have in right now will be able to fill those 2 positions. But it's a roller coaster that it can kind of takes our time, and kind of look at how do we move forward to retain and get those applicants. One of the goals, when I hired back in 06, I mean, there was 30 people or 35 people that applied for a couple positions. And I was one of them, and I'd love to see those numbers again. And I think that we can do something to change on how we can recruit those people, which kind of goes into some things I'm going to talk about later, but also, to be competitive with some of the departments. We're in kind of a unique situation where I don't feel like we can really relate to a lot of departments that are inside the valley here or in the state, just because of our demographics. AST is hard to do since they're a state agency, and they have Anchorage Police Department, and they're so much bigger. And Palmer doesn't even come close to the level of the calls that we're dealing with. So it's hard to grab some of these local departments and get a good initiative on where we need to be. And so other than looking at other answers, then I want to create those answers and see where we need to be at for staffing levels. We have 50,000 cars, probably over that go through the Parks and PWH intersection. We want to reduce the amount of traffic collisions that are inside the city there. Because I don't have the staffing levels to do a collision. You get a collision at Parks and PWH at 3 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's taking every single personnel that I have to manage that. And with that is kind of getting back into being proactive on traffic enforcement. So that's and again, I'll kind of talk to that here in a minute.
So Chief, you mentioned the Lateral Academy. Is that APD or is that Sitka?
It's a ASD, or it's DPS down in Sitka. It's about 2.5 weeks. And one of the initiatives is the lateral program that we're able to hire, and I look for certified officers. There's a lot of money and time that goes into brand new officers. And if we can get a lateral, which is wonderful, but if we also have a very qualified brand new applicant, I want to invest into that individual to build them up. And the 2 positions that we have open, and multiple applicants that we do have, there are quite a few of them that don't have any experience, and I anticipate that those 2 will probably, if we can come out of there, we'll be sent them to the full academy down at DPS come probably be July, August time is my hope. So to continue down with that, we have an increased traffic enforcement. We tried to do, the calls for service kind of really dictate more of a reactive time frame with the personnel that I have. And any kind of traffic enforcement proactively that we do, we try to utilize DUI and click it or ticket funds, which is through NHTSA, controlled by the state through the Alaska Highway Safety Office, which presents guidelines on kind of how that money is going to be sent, the hours, the time frames. What we look at, and I know that officers take a lot of advantage of that when it comes available. And one of the biggest things that we were able to kind of utilize during the construction program down KGB was putting an officer down there. We worked on an agreement with the Alaska Department of Transportation when they were able to get a patrol officer down there working the construction area, and it has been instrumental down there. It was nothing but praises from the project manager down there about our presence historically, probably even Wasilla and even statewide, probably even nationwide, that the common practice was to sit there on the side of the road with your lights on to be a deterrent and to slow people down. I think after a while that's learned behavior from some of their drivers and not realizing that they're not going to do anything. And so we took a different approach of like, if you're working it, you're stopping people and you're addressing aggressive driving behavior as needed. Because there was, I believe, 2 individuals from the construction crew that did get hit by vehicles this year. Luckily, not one of them was serious, or they had a significant injury, and the other one not so much, but it was still 2 individuals that got hit as they're working on the construction, and we were able to successfully handle those and arrest those that were responsible for that. Given our opioid settlement funds, we were able to, after discussions, I was able to use those funds to purchase a canine who actually sent up. And has been just, last week or 2 weeks ago was graduated from a 10-week academy down in Tennessee. One of our officers are with her. She's very similar to our current canine Echo, who is going to be probably being retired here soon. So we have a little bit of a transition to kind of help out and kind of move. She will be a dual purpose dog, but a lot of that was funded through the opioid settlement that we had in there. Met the criteria for that. So it was great to utilize the expense that usually comes with getting a canine, a handler, and all the gear certified for here on out. One of the things that we have worked on is kind of going through our old antiquated equipment. When we were doing a review of that, we found that ballistic helmets were expired from 2006. Thanks to your guys' approval, I was able to order everybody a ballistic helmet to get everybody in there. So that has a 10-year lifespan on those. That was ordered kind of the end of last year. And then we were able to update our current tasers for an old the old tasers that will eventually soon be out of service or be unable to use. And those were just recently had come in, and we are waiting on getting some instructors up here to get officers certified so we can officially start carrying those and start doing some in-house instructors to do that. So that's pretty new. And then one of the biggest things that I'd like to see is, over the years, it's been a lack of building up our officers to eventually maybe even take this role to our lieutenants and support growth and opportunity within the department. When I took over in 2022, one of the things that I wanted to see was within 2 years, my lieutenants go to a command school. One of my lieutenants was able to graduate last January, about a year ago. It was actually in March, the way that it was, but he was able to attend the Northwestern Public Safety School of Command and Staff. That was down in Arizona. And then here, about mid-January, I have my other lieutenant that's been accepted into the FBI National Academy, so he'll be going to Quantico for 10 weeks. If you're not familiar with the command school, it's 10 weeks of very rugged, pretty intense type of police command supervision. It's a wonderful school. It's fairly highly recognized, and it's no walk in the park. It's very high level college type classes, along with the physical aspect of things that teaches anything from budgeting to personnel to patrol. It's just pretty extensive, and I'm looking forward to having both of them be graduated from a command school. Another one that I'm looking at is community engagement and partnerships. One of the things that we've been able to do was partnership with Matsu Health Foundation, and we piloted the mobile crisis team, the MCT, which you guys may have seen around there in the vehicle. We were able to kind of work out a lot of the bumps. Matsu Health Foundation has been instrumental in that support with that. I believe that we had created a wonderful pilot program with two of our current sergeant and an officer that's currently with that program, where they've actually implemented out to doing Alaska State Troopers now in Palmer, and they've actually expanded out into the more of the core area of the valley. And if you're unfamiliar with MCT, it's a mental health initiative to for patrol purposes, to take away the calls of us dealing with mental health when we are not able to provide the right services that they need. And what that means is that, a lot of times we have really three options. We can release it to a responsible person, we take them to jail, and we take them to the hospital, and it's not really always the outcome that we're looking for. And with the MCT is that it gets them into taking away the times of the officers, takes away, they'll take the case responsibility for it, and if they need to go to the hospital, then they'll provide that. And then it gets assigned to a case member, and that can do some follow-ups and kind of be pretty repetitive on getting them the help that they need. So I've been looking forward to that, and with our partnership with the mental health team, is that WPD and Matt Comer were recipients of the Burt Hall Award from the Matt Sue Health Foundation, which is basically improving the health of the community members here in the valley. Currently, right now, we host a Explorer program along with AST and Palmer PD. Would you like me to talk faster? I'm trying to get through, so. We sponsor that right now. We have 24 current Explorers. I think they try to have it do with 27. APOA, which is the Alaska Police Officers Association, they help kind of co-host or sponsor that. We found that for all of us, the AST and Palmer in the area, that we tried to, there was nothing really guiding kids from 16 to 21, since you have to be a 21 to be in law enforcement. There's a gap. And sometimes, sometimes unfortunately, decisions made at a young age has a severe impact on future employment. And we try to help them say, hey, this is what to expect, we prepare them. We have a lot of people that volunteer their time with that, and they teach them everything from patrol to what to expect in an oral board to what to expect for, tactics and really kind of build up that partnership with them. To be that mentor for a lot of these kids coming through here. As Bethany at the museum said, that we do have a lieutenant that's assigned, Lieutenant Lopez assigned to the local emergency planning commission through the borough. And then we had a Wasilla High School student that refurbished a speed cart for deployment. It needed to be redone. He did an excellent job as a project. And we try to deploy that and put some security measures on there so things don't get stolen off it like years in the past. So. The last one is technology development and infrastructure expansion. We were able to hire a WPD IT specialist, which is going to help implement a lot of the software and platforms that I have going on in this department. For example, of redaction, the request for records retention, our RMS system, and some other large in-depth software that needs to be built up. We currently have a new department website design that will help out with our recruitment. We had found that in this day and age, for looking into it, is the population base and the clientele that we'd like to see is no longer reading websites. They are more of a ad and video. So it's a scroll and look at a video, scroll and look at a video. So we've geared our recruitment shift to short videos to capture kind of a recruitment base, and that's the plan. We have just started to implement that, so I wish I would have had something to show you, but we're not even into, we're still into discussions. So one of the things that I worked on was implementing the software to shorten the time frame with records requests. We had hired out, so if we have an individual that needs a record request or a motor vehicle collision, we found that there was a large delay for getting those reports. We try to take the middleman out of it, and then we hired a company with the software to any kind of request. It would be hopefully immediate, and it seems like it's been pretty successful with that. And one of the things that I've been shooting over for the course of the years was having fuel tanks for not only for the PD but for city. 2018, when we had that earthquake, I was a sergeant working on duty, and I had to park my patrol cars because fuel tanks weren't working. It's a little bit nerve-wracking. I think if I really needed to, I could probably get some fuel, but I don't want to. It's kind of one of those things where I wanted to take away, where I felt like we needed to be a little bit better from an emergency management standpoint. We were able to help with Public Works in Cassie. We were able to get a 5,000 gallon fuel tank out at Public Yard, or the city yard. And with that, we were able to jump on the state's contract. That was a substantial savings. Not only for my department, but for the other departments that were in there, to the tune of a rough estimate of about $9,000 a month. So that's one of my biggest goals, to have that. It's been instrumental on how we operate, and knowing that in an emergency, when it does happen, that I have the available resources where I don't have to park cars, or I don't have to wait for others to supply something, that we've made that initiative there. So. And to finish up, and I apologize, I'm trying to talk fast. One of the things that we're working on too, and again, thanks to the approval from the council for the budget last year, is working on CAP projects for the department. Perimeter security is something that's important to me, not only for the safety of everybody at the department, but kind of the world that we live in, and you know, and to have a more secured area is nice, more lighting, and eventually have our own fuel tanks that are over there. We're beginning those talks of over the next 5 years, hopefully we can improve our kind of facility over there. So I kind of went through those. Those are a lot of the highlights that I feel like we've accomplished and kind of where we still continue to go. A lot of those are continuing, and to name any specific is don't think I can name anything specific and say, hey, we've completed this goal and let's move on to another one. That's all. It's a living document. It continues on of how I see it. So.
Okay. Mr. Graham?
Thanks, Chief. You know, manning continues to be an issue and has been for several years. Do different departments around the state, you know, municipal police departments around the state, cooperate by talking about what's working for them and what's not working for them? I know Fairbanks has hired 5 officers, and we've been short, you know, for quite some time. Do we have any idea of, you know, what lure they use to be able to attract 5 officers, or?
No, not really. I mean, I wish I had the magical answer, and I think a lot of it isn't not necessarily just area here, regional, state. It's also national. You know, you try to look at what's the answer. How do people to benefit? What I'm finding out is that I don't personally believe in hiring bonuses. I think that the guys and gals that are currently working there, I don't think that shows a good picture of person next to me is getting a certain amount of hiring bonus to come work for a couple of years and go. That's not, for me personally, I'd like to have somebody more committed into the department, more committed into the community. So you look at, look at those things, but how do you retain and how do you keep? Because the average officer is jumping around 3 to 5 years and they're going somewhere else. In the state of Alaska, they're invested for 5 years. And it's just the nation, the way it is of they're going to grab their retirement and they're going to go somewhere else the way that currently is. And a lot of that stuff's set by the state, but I think that there's some things that we can do better to start attracting a lot of those officers, because I look at a current officer right now that I have to anticipate in 5 years statistically they're going to tell me that they're going to leave. So I'm not getting that longevity officer anymore, where I believe that the retirement system of tier 1, 2, and 3 is more designed for your long tier 17 step, or your longevity is that it's very rare that you're going to see that. I think it's a culture thing. I don't think it's anything in Alaska. I think it is something that is a lot of agencies nationwide deal with this. And there's a lot of it's pretty common to run into an officer that has worked for 6 or 7 different agencies, and how do you stay on top of that is you build a culture within a department that people are happy to be here. But I also believe that Alaska is also kind of somewhat of a transient state, and you're going to get people coming and going all the time. And you need to have that incentive. Everybody's throwing money at the problem, but they still have vacancies. So to me, I think it's more of a culture, more an internal, and how to keep and retain those individuals that are in the area here. People like to work here, and it's just, wish I had the magical answer, and if you do, I'd love to hear it. So, and I'm sorry, I apologize. I kind of got sidetracked. I didn't move my slides forward, so kind of highlighted anything there. If you guys wanted to take a look at it, again, I apologize for not hitting that, but it kind of highlights some of the goals that you guys have set forward, and I kind of indicated that was with the numbers that are associated to the goals that set forward by council.
They have a printout.
Okay, thanks.
Kathy?
One comment and one quick question. Your partnership that you have with My House, I'd really like to commend you in your department. I have witnessed firsthand an officer being in there and de-escalating and talking with these kids. And I think when you're dealing with some of those situations, it does take someone special and someone that cares. And your officers are pretty amazing over there. So I hope you will continue that partnership. And then please excuse my ignorance, but what is the speed cart? I have no idea what that is.
A speed car is basically a radar that is on a trailer that I can deploy into areas that have problems with speeders. And so if it's Crestwood that has a problem with speeder, then I can program it to what the speed limit is there, and then if it were to be, somebody's going 40 miles an hour, then it will flash an alert and say slow down, and kind of give a little bit more of recognition that, hey, it's going a little fast and need to slow it down a little bit. So
Thank you for that, and yes, those slowed me down. I tend to have a lead foot once in a while, and then at least now I don't have a vision of Mario Kart in my head, so thank you for that.
contrary to what they do say is that there's no camera on there. You're not going to get a ticket by the time that you get home, but
Tell people
You should have
that.
said that.
well,
Tons of tickets.
Should do.
that's a catch-22 question there. So
Thank you, Chief. Okay, is there a motion to exit committee of the whole?
Madam Mayor, I move that we exit committee of the whole.
Is there a second?
Rubio seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Crafton and seconded by Councilmember Rubio to exit committee of the whole. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, we are out at 8:15. We are now at audience comments. Seeing none, I will close audience comments, bring it back to the dais. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We'll see everybody here tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, same time, same place. Tomorrow, we're going to hear from the library, finance, public works, MATCOM, and then Mayor Ledford will present on behalf of Deputy Administrator Nygaard. Please collect your handouts. You can either leave them here, take them home, but bring them back with you tomorrow if you do take them home. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Vlock is not here. Councilmember Johnson.
Nothing, Mayor. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yes. Councilmember Rubio.
Nothing here either. We'll see you tomorrow.
Councilmember Cottle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to all the department heads that spoke tonight and gave your presentations, and congratulations to our new planner. It's good to have one. That's it.
Councilmember Crafton.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, thank you to the staff that presented. It was very good. I'm looking forward to looking over the giant one here that matches up things a little bit more. I was trying to look through it as we went and realized it'd be better just as some late night reading, one might say. And as well, Cindy, congratulations. It almost feels a little surreal thinking that you're the planner now and that we have a planner more so. So congratulations. Thank you all. See you tomorrow night.
Councilmember Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks to the staff, good presentations. Couple of things, I think these are both for the clerk. What day is the employee luncheon?
Friday.
This Friday?
Mhm.
Okay, at
11.
11 o'clock?
11 o'clock, we start serving food, 11 to 2. So
Okay.
just come
And
on
just
in, we'd love to
And
see
just
you.
as a reminder to the council, that is funded by the council, it is the council's, I hate to call it gift, but it is the council's recognition of all the employees. So I highly encourage everybody to come by and meet the employees, sit down and talk with them, because I find it very interesting every year, to talk with people about what their perceptions are and what they do and what they like and what they don't like and things like that, because, especially as we roll into the holiday season and budgeting and knowing what they're thinking is a big deal. And then the mayor's memo that came out, my input on that would be perhaps Madam Clerk, as part of our new council person orientation or something, we could talk about the proper relationship between council persons and departments. So.
Yes, if the policy remains in effect, we will add, yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you all. And thank you to all the department heads. You guys, as usual, do a good job. And I hope that the council has got an eye-opening of what we are really doing. So, with that, with no further business at hand, I'm adjourning the meeting unless an objection is raised. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned at 8:19.